Today in Titletown Packers podcast. My name is Griffin. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at AllDayPackers, and I'm joined as always by my good friend Bron, who you can follow on Instagram at Lambo.Leapers. And we are back after another Packers victory, this time over the Baltimore Ravens. Week 15, the Packers get the victory 31-30. Christmas is creeping up. This is one of my favorite Sundays of the year so far. Bron, how did you like that Sunday with the Cardinals losing, the Buccaneers losing to the Saints, not just losing 9-0, getting shut out on Sunday Night Football, and the Packers are now standing alone atop the NFC. This has been a fantastic week so far, the week of Christmas. Bron, how are you?
What a weekend, Griff. What a weekend. That was a lot of good football. And really not that first stretch of games, the 1 o'clock, but once it hit that Green Bay game, and then the games that mattered were super fun for us as Packers fans. So I'm good, man. What a weekend. That's really all I could say. And we'll get into all the goods this week because we've got a lot to talk about as usual this time of year.
So before we get into the Packers game, we've got the Cardinals. I'm going to be honest, the 1 o'clock games, I was pretty busy. I wasn't really tuned in. I had the Titans-Steelers game on in the background, but I'm flipping through the channels. I see Lions-Cardinals on the good old Sunday ticket, and I'm like, do I turn that one on and root for the Lions? No, there's no point. So I didn't even pay attention to that game. And then it's about 4 o'clock, Packers are about to come on. I look up the score of that game, and it's 30-12, something stupid like that. I was blown away. I was like, this is amazing. Santa came early. It's a week early, Santa. And then Sunday night, the Bucks lose 9-0. I leave for a little bit in the first quarter, and the Saints were up 6-0, I think. And I was like, oh, that's fun. That's going to be fun to watch. Let's hope they can hold that lead somehow. And I had to sit through 60 minutes of Taysom Hill being maybe the worst starting quarterback that I've ever had to watch and root for before. But they got it. And Tom Fraudy, could not do anything once again against the Saints defense. I don't know what it is with them, but he can never do anything against that defense in the regular season, at least. And that's just sets the Packers up beautifully during this 3-week stretch to end the season, where we are sitting at 11-3, not only the best record in the NFC, but also the best record in the NFL, meaning that when have the Packers ever had the best record in the NFL this late in the season? It's always been, we've been up there with a bunch of teams in terms of the best team in the NFL. But right now, there's no one playing better than the Packers.
Griff, I remember I sent you a text pretty early in that football game with the Saints and the Bucks, and I said, can the Saints really do this? And because they were up 6-0, I remember, and it was like, I think it was in the second quarter, and the Bucks hadn't scored, and the Saints defense was playing really well. And then the guys started getting hurt for them. Leonard Fournette, Chris Godwin, who's now out for the year, which, that's Tom's favorite receiving target. So that's a big blow. And Mike Evans went down with a hamstring. Guys were dropping on that Bucks team, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be able to be done, but at that point when it was like 6-0, I was like, well, at the very least, like they beat the Bucks, or the Saints barely lose to the Bucks, and Tom doesn't play that all that well, and I'm hoping, well, at least maybe Rodgers will move up in the MVP conversation, and maybe we'll look more like the best team in the NFC after they just barely beat the Saints, but instead they lost, and it helps us even more. It helps Aaron Rodgers' MVP case even more. It helps us, obviously, most importantly, in the 1 seed conversation to be now not only a game up, but have those tiebreakers over all those teams except Dallas. And we'll get into all that later in the show. But it was a huge, huge game for us to be able to have that desired outcome, which was so important. To get the desired outcomes this time of year is one of the biggest parts of getting a playoff spot like that first seed bye. So really, really awesome game for us to go out and just kind of sit on the couch and watch and have come in our favor.
Just to touch on the MVP stuff real quick. If you've been listening to this podcast these last few weeks, Bron, you have mentioned numerous times that you think Rodgers is maybe not going to win the MVP, but he should win the MVP, and he's better than Brady, all this stuff. And I've been saying, yeah, I know, but when you look at the stats, anyone who votes for MVP isn't going to vote for Rodgers over Tom Brady, given the way that Tom Brady's stats look. And then, I'm watching the game, I'm posting about the Packers being the 1 seed, I'm all excited. And then it dawns on me that this was the last chance that Tom Brady had to have a real narrative game in this season. This is going to be his last primetime game of the year. This was Sunday Night Football. Everyone's watching. If he had a good performance, it would have just locked it up for sure. But not only did he have a bad performance, he had an absolutely terrible performance and got shut out to the Taysom Hill-led New Orleans Saints. Couldn't score a point. And I realized there's no way that they can give him the MVP after that, right? Like there's no way. I realize that Rodgers had a very similar game in week 1, but the MVP is a narrative award. That matters. The fact that it was week 1 and it was the first game of the season all the way back in September, that matters because it's not fresh in the voters' mind. What's fresh in the voters' mind right now is Rodgers having 4 games in a row of playing outstanding. The Packers haven't lost with Aaron Rodgers on the field other than 2 times, one of them being the first game of the season. And Tom Brady, that's going to be fresh in their mind, that performance. When you take away his top 3 receivers, he looks like absolute dog crap. That's going to be right in the thick of their minds when they're putting their vote in for MVP. So Rodgers all of a sudden has a really solid chance, and he's not the betting favorite right now, but there's a chance that if he continues to play well these final 3 games, that he's absolutely going to be the favorite, and he could seriously win his 4th MVP award.
I mean, what are the odds that Rodgers goes out and has, like, a super bad game? I mean, that doesn't happen. He doesn't do that often. Like, when does he turn the ball over? Like, he just doesn't do it. It would take something like one of those games where we don't get off the plane, against an LA team. But the difference is we play the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions, and those look like 3 winnable matchups for Green Bay. And Aaron Rodgers is playing maybe some of the best football of his career right now. So to me, you talk about MVP chances. Rodgers is going to continue to play at this level, and to me, the MVP was decided with that loss to Tampa Bay and the way Rodgers played against the Ravens. That's, to me, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's locked up, obviously, but if the trends continue, even if Brady plays well to finish the year, if Rodgers plays the same way he's been playing all year long, he's got it. I mean, this is, and it's not surprising, because he's been so successful this year, and what he's doing now with Adams and MVS coming on, and with the injuries that we've suffered, without having Tunyon there and the offensive line, he's just put so much on the table to kind of show how valuable he is as the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. And that's what the award's for, the most valuable player, and he's showing that with how well he's playing and how valuable he is, and that's kind of the recipe for winning that award, especially as you do it this late in the year, approaching, when it's time to start voting for that sort of thing.
The offensive line is another thing because the Bucs have had by far the best offensive line in the league this year at pretty much every single position. You wouldn't know it watching the game on Sunday because Brady was under pressure pretty much the entire game. But other than that game, they have been a brick wall. Meanwhile, Rodgers has had a revolving door at every single position. He has one day one starter left. He's got Dennis Kelly starting at right tackle and Yosh Nijman starting at left tackle. I mean, they've played well for given what we expected of them, but to the voters, what does that look like? It looks like a guy who has stood strong through so much adversity and has gotten the ball out of his hands fast enough where it's not even a factor. And this also goes for Matt LaFleur in terms of the Coach of the Year award discussion, but that's another discussion. But in terms of Rodgers, and he's gone games without his 3 receivers, and he actually won against the undefeated Cardinals in Arizona on a Thursday night game. That was he didn't even play that well that game, but that may have been his best performance of the year given the circumstances. And he's through all the adversity this season, all the COVID, whatever. He's still been able to come out and look like an MVP in the month of December at the very least. And these past 4 games, he's looked a lot like he did last season, which I wasn't sure if we were ever going to reach. But it's just, if it continues, then it's going to be hard to not vote for him.
When you look at the stats between Brady and Rodgers after this game, uh, I mean, you got to take into account that Rodgers has played one less, right? But the numbers are pretty similar apart from one big thing, and we talked about it last week. Rodgers has 30 touchdowns, 4 picks. Brady has 36 touchdowns, 11 picks. And that's the difference. I mean, throw in another game from Rodgers, add 3 touchdowns to it, 33 and 4 versus 36 and 11. I mean, who's got the better numbers there? It's pretty clear to me. But these voters are weird. I mean, if they have an issue with Rodgers, like his vaccine stance and whatnot, maybe that'll factor in. But objectively, when you look at the way that these quarterbacks have played, who means more to their team, and all of the above, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers hands down. So I'm excited to see how this goes. And, regardless of whether he wins it or not, we have bigger aspirations. And I think we're going to, the MVP would just be an icing on the cake type thing. But of course, we have bigger aspirations. So I'm looking forward to all of it.
Are you at all worried about the MVP curse? Because I'd be lying if I said it wasn't in the back of my mind. I don't think the MVP has won the Super Bowl since 1999, Kurt Warner. That's insane, isn't it? Like, the fact that the best player in the league, the best quarterback in the league, hasn't won the Super Bowl since 1999. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's just like the Madden curse where it's just coincidence, but last year is a perfect example of where we should have won the Super Bowl last year, man. We should have won the Super Bowl, and just things go wrong, and that's happened for every MVP since 1999.
It's look, I'm like the least believer in like
Yeah,
curses or
I know you are.
jinx. You know that, Griff. Like that I absolutely hate that. Like it's just the dumbest thing to me.
I know that you like to. I know you like to comment sarcastically to people who comment on your page that you're going to jinx the team.
Oh
That's one of
yes,
your
I always
favorite
get
activities.
anytime I post like anything about any positive statistic, oh, don't jinx us. And I always like to say, while I'm flattered you think that my Instagram post impacts 11 professionals on offense and 11 professionals on defense playing professional football on a game in which I will not be attending, like, I always
Do
say
you
stuff
have
like
that
that.
copy? Do you have that copy pasted?
No, but I pretty much have it memorized at this point because it just annoys me every time. I can't post any positive stats because I will
Oh, I
jinx
know.
us. It's
The
the
don't jinx
worst.
it crowd. There's nothing worse than the don't jinx it crowd. Don't be the don't jinx it guy. I'm
Oh my
gonna
gosh.
when I
It's
promote this.
flattering, really. You think I have that kind of power? You think I'm that
Yeah,
powerful? Like, it's flattering, really, but at the same time, it's the dumbest thing I could ever imagine.
when I promote this podcast tomorrow, I'm gonna attach a post to it that says that the Packers are now 11-0 in the month of December under Matt LaFleur. Crazy stat, by the way. But I
Oof.
cannot wait for the comments on that one.
Yep. Oh, great. Now next year in December, we're going to lose all 4 games. Like, come on. That's the thing. That's every
Uh,
but my other argument against it is somebody in some other area is saying, like, if I say Matt LaFleur is 9-0 in December, whatever, blah blah blah, somebody in some other place is saying, "Oh, well, the Browns have this stat in December," and it's like one of them's got to be right and one of them's going to be wrong. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like who's the jinxer and who's like like who's right and who's jinxing? Like it's just the dumbest thing. Not I
I
mean
think
that's
it's
enough
like
about it. But
I think
what
it's
is it,
like
Griff?
I think it's young people who do that because when I was a kid, I
Ah,
was so superstitious. Like I had a chair that I had to sit in during every single Packer game. I still wear a Rodgers jersey during every Packer game, but I
well,
don't know
there's
if
there's
it's
like
very
good
much
luck,
superstitious.
right?
Used to wear a
There's good luck
visor every
stuff.
single game. Is there you believe in luck, but you don't believe in jinx? Explain
No,
that one
but
for me.
like that's no, that's not what I said. I think there's like you just like to have your routine that like like you just feel like this is what I want to do like, and I feel like it gives me the best feeling about our chances to win. That's what I like. I don't really do that stuff, but like I could see that more so than like somebody saying that my
Don't
post has an
jinx it.
impact on somebody saying that my post has an impact on the game. It's like, come on. Like
Yeah.
really? Like that's where I draw the line. Like, yes,
Sometimes
wear your lucky socks, Griff, or wear your hat, or sit in your stupid little chair, or wherever you want to sit on game days. I
easy
mean,
on the chair, man. That chair
yeah,
went 12-0 in 2014.
and when you're at the game, you're 3 and
3-0
0,
when I'm at the game. Oh
3
my
and 0. It
god.
it must be the jinx, I swear.
I'm like 161,000 in line for season tickets. That we got to accelerate that because that's
Yeah.
eight wins a year. Just that's the baseline.
Hey,
No, but
we'll get you a lucky little chair at Lambeau.
oh yeah, I can bring the chair to Lambeau. What does that do? That's like a guaranteed 40-point win right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about this game a little bit, which we haven't talked about 15 minutes into this podcast. Another great win. Another the score 31-30. It always catches me off guard every time I've looked at it in the past 24 hours. But it was a great win. The offense played so well. They were moving up and down the field. And at this point, it's not a one game thing. It's not like wow, they played so well this game. That's just who they are now. This is the 2020 offense. This is the offense, the Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers offense that we're used to seeing. And they had another excellent game where they moved the ball at will minus a few drives. But the defense, maybe not all that we wanted to see. And the special teams, definitely, again, not all that we wanted to see. But in terms of the offense, there's not much more that I could have asked for.
Yeah, the offense. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he played great once
I
again.
don't think we've done that
He
this
missed a couple
podcast yet.
throws. No, yeah. I don't know if who is he actually?
That's pretty much
But
all we've talked about so far. But
no,
yes,
all right.
Rogers played.
Well, he played
Rogers
well.
played great. Yes.
He's worth mentioning again. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. MVP. We could talk about him for the whole show if we wanted to, and we could easily do it. And people would listen just as much, if not more, because that's how good this guy plays. And he did it again on Sunday against a good football team with a good head coach on the defensive side of the ball. That's a good football team, the Ravens. You have to give them credit. They've got good personnel. They were missing some guys, but their scheme is still there, and they're led by one of the great defensive minds in the league. They've got a bunch of good guys in that Ravens coaching staff. Wink Martindale, of course, Harbaugh making a lot of the decisions. That is a good group there on defense, and the Packers pretty much had their way with them in the second half. Um, they started out slow again, though, Griff, and it's the crazy thing. They did that slow start thing. Can we do that against a team like
I'm
Kansas
expecting
City in the
that at this
Super
point.
Bowl? Right? Like, can we do that against Kansas City in the Super Bowl? What if they get out to a huge lead that we can't overcome? We have to come out hot. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things we have to start working on. I have a lot to say about the idea of complementary football, which I think is one thing we are just absolutely lacking at this point. That might be our worst, even more so than special teams, and that's included in the complementary football discussion. But this is maybe our biggest issue, and the one thing that potentially scares me a little bit about the future of this team. Um, Offense, we've been playing really well, but the defensive side of the ball has just been falling off a little bit. We've allowed so many big plays. Tyler Huntley ran all over us, just like other quarterbacks like Justin Fields did the week before. Anybody who's relatively fast has ran all over us, apart from Kyler Murray, I would say. Um, so we have to fix some of these things. We need to start playing good defense while we're playing this good offense. The defense was good when our offense wasn't as good. And that wasn't long ago. The offense is just starting to heat up really since that Minnesota game, maybe a couple games before, but that we have gotten healthier on the offensive side of the ball, but we need to continue to play better on defense. And it starts with the big plays. I'm hoping this will happen when Zadarius and Jair get back on the field. Maybe that's the equalizer, right? To get those guys back, get the defense back to the level it was playing at, and maybe more, even better um, than it was when we were shutting teams out, like we shut out the Seahawks and we dominated teams like Arizona and others, where we were just not letting these good offenses score more than 20 something points. Now teams are consistently hitting that 30 mark because the Bears did it and now the Ravens did it. And we've got to find a way to allow less points, allow less big plays. I'm hoping that the two defensive all pros returning will help that. And I'm hoping, we added some special teams guys this week. We're continuing to look at ways to improve that, although we're still playing like absolute garbage on special teams. Literally the worst special teams in the league this year, the Green Bay Packers. So if we can fix some of those areas, start playing complementary football, meaning everything is married together to help us having all three sides of the ball playing extremely well at the same time, that's how you win a Super Bowl. Because if you have one side of the ball not playing up to snuff, some team is going to take advantage of that, and the best team will win because they have all three sides playing better than the other team.
Yeah, man. Well, part of this, I don't know. It just feels like the Ravens offense is almost the kryptonite for the Packers defense because we saw last week Justin Fields the way he was able to run all over us on the scramble drill. And all season I've been saying like Trey Lance, why didn't they use Trey Lance more the 49ers week 3? Why didn't they use him in the QB run game more? Why didn't Kyler Murray have more designed runs? Why doesn't Justin Fields have more designed runs? Because every time he takes off it's a scramble drill. I don't know. I don't know if these guys are watching film, but I've been glad that no one has really tried to use the QB run game on us. But the Baltimore, we knew that they weren't just gonna sit back and make Tyler Huntley drop back 40 times. He had some nice QB designed runs and he had some nice scrambles too. So it just feels like a type of game, without Kenny Clark in the middle, it just feels like a type of game that I'm willing to throw out. And we held them to 17 points late into the fourth quarter. A lot of stuff happened late in that game that is we're used to seeing from the Packers defense. So I'm not gonna take too much from this game. It was scary. I'm just happy we got the dub. But this back to the offense. We're so off track. Back to the offense. They're playing out of their minds right now. The run game is kind of heating up. Coming into this game, everyone and their mother knows that the Ravens cannot defend the pass, and they have a great run defense, maybe the best run defense in the league, but they cannot defend the pass with all the injuries that they have in the secondary. So what do? Of course, we come out and run it down their throats with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to open the game. We just keep running it. And then Rodgers misses Devontae early, which was such a beautiful route. I wish Rodgers would have hit him because that would have been on a highlight reel for years to come. But he couldn't hit him, and we go 3-and-out on the opening drive. Wow, I haven't seen that one before this year. The opening drive stuff is so strange because for so long, Rodgers, and even in the McCarthy days. Rodgers has been so good in the first quarter. He's been so good on the opening drive, but this year it's just not there. And like you could tell the Ravens, their opening drive when they got stopped on fourth down late deep into our territory, they had a perfectly scripted opening drive where they just went right down the field. Every play was working. I don't know what it is, but we just cannot script a series to open the game, and that's something they need to work on. But it's always after the first quarter, it's like, this sucks, but it always kicks back into gear and looks like what we're used to seeing. So the opening drive, maybe they should work on that. And you're right, maybe against a good team like Kansas City or in the playoffs against the Buccaneers, maybe we're not going to get away with those first quarter woes. So it'd be nice if against a team like the Browns or the Vikings, we can get it figured out so it doesn't come back to bite us in the playoffs.
There was a lot of talk about possibly, is it because Aaron isn't practicing and he's getting off to a bit of a slow start? He needs to get in the rhythm. Does he need to get into a groove? And then when he finally gets in that groove, it's, bombs away from there. But I'm not sure how, maybe you think that, maybe you don't. I don't know if that's it or not, but it might contribute to it, some of the slow starts that we've had. There's a lot that is involved in that kind of thing. The one thing that's concerning is when they've got these play calls that like they want to run and everybody agrees that it's the right thing to do, and then they come out and they don't execute. That's the worst part of it, because if we get off to a hotter start, it's going to make the whole game a lot smoother, because that's when you put the pressure on the other team. I mean, we have to regain the momentum at that point, because we're losing in, the last 2 games now, and it's not the first time this has happened, but we're on a stretch of games now where we have to regain the momentum to start a half. And that's challenging. And against a really, really good team, that's a challenging thing to do. But I mean, even in the NFC Championship, we were down by a boatload, came back to within 8, obviously, and had a chance to win it there until the way it ended. But that this has been the nature of this team for a while now, is if we get down by too much, we're not going to get it done. But if we can stay within range and regain the momentum, like I said, a super challenging thing, then we're usually able to come out with the win. But the best part is when we're blowing the doors off of them early and then we're trying to make teams play catch up. That's the best way to win. And it leaves a lot more room for error. The margin of error is a lot wider when we're playing that way. So I'm hoping we can get back into that range. And I think that's going to start with, the defense played well yesterday at times for sure. I mean, getting that stop on the first drive, holding them on 4th and goal, that was huge. But after that, pretty much for the rest of the first half, they didn't play as well as I would have liked. I'd like to see them play a little better. And then as the fourth quarter kind of came down and they got back into the game, that was not great either. We need to see more consistent performances like we saw earlier in the year from this defense. And I think the offense kind of same way. We have to play consistently throughout a football game. We have to have one of those games where from start to finish, all 3 phases play well enough where we blow the doors off a team. We haven't done that. We really didn't do it last year much. I would say the Titans game was that game last year. We need a game like that. Against the Browns would be a really good opportunity, or
On
the
Christmas.
Vikings, right? Christmas. Let's
Oh,
let's
against the
let's put
Vikings.
it
What
all
would you rather
together.
happen?
Well, it doesn't really matter. We need to win all the games. It doesn't matter which one.
Well,
Obviously, I
yeah, but
prefer the Viking. You prefer of course. We
yeah,
want to
you
make the
prefer the
Vikings look like
Vikings or do you
garbage.
prefer Christmas Day special?
Well, I mean, let's see what Santa leaves under the tree and ask me next week.
Okay. No, I mean it all goes hand in hand. I was thinking that last week was that game where we blew the doors off the Bears, but that didn't happen actually. They scored 30 points and the special teams had an all-time awful game. So, yeah, you're right. That hasn't happened this season. And maybe it'll be week 16 just like it was last year against the Titans. And maybe it'll snow on Christmas. I don't know what the Green Bay weather's looking like. I stopped monitoring that after my game because I was monitoring it for like a month before my game. For me, it's like if the defense wants to catch up and play as well as they were playing early in the season, then that's great. But I don't think this offense really needs a defense that's gonna lock down teams like it looked like we were able to early in the season. And the truth is that defense is mostly random, and that there's a lockdown true elite defense is really hard to come by, and it takes a perfect storm of talent to have that. Think of like the 2015 Broncos or the 2013 Seahawks or obviously the 85 Bears. Like it takes so many things to happen and so many good players to have on one team that's a defense that's truly able to stop an opposing offense. But most defenses don't have that, and most money goes into the offense in NFL teams. When we look good on defense, it's mostly product of the offense not having their best day at the office. And when we look bad on defense, it's usually because a guy like Tyler Huntley comes in and shocks everyone and plays better. So this is an offensive league, and I cannot expect much out of this defense. And again, I thought they played pretty well yesterday for a lot of that game. But if they want to come back in the playoffs and have a game like they did against the Cardinals week 8, then that would be great and would perfectly pair well with our offense the way that they're playing right now. But I'm not expecting that, and I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for this offense.
Well, I mean, it's the way you say that, it kind of to me like discredits that we've got a lot of good players on this defense. I feel like we're capable of being elite on that side of the ball, and we should be playing like that. I get that, like you said, you made a good point about how it is an offensive league. I mean, it's hard to play defense in this league. Just like we always say, it's hard to play middle linebacker. It's hard to play every position on defense because it's an offensive league. I mean, offenses are always going to have their success. They're all, you're always going to score points. Like on the rare occasion that a guy like Tom Brady gets shut out, that's about it, really. I mean, like every other team is going to score. Even if you're the Jets, the Jets score points every week, and it doesn't
Usually.
matter who they're playing. Yeah, well, I don't know if they've got shut out this year or not, but I mean,
Probably.
most of the time, yeah, I don't know, maybe they probably get shut out like 6 or 7 times, but even even with the way that the Jets play every week, like they still put points on the board against whoever they're up against most of the time, and that defense has its moments, right? Like it's just like anything, I guess, in this league, as Mike McCarthy would say.
It's like
There's
anything.
Yeah, it's like anything. If you can do the Pittsburgh accent, it's like
I,
anything, really. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not concerned about the defense. I just would like them to start playing better as we approach the playoffs, and that's the best way to win. You got to be who's the hottest at that time? Who's the hottest team in the playoffs at that time? That's the team who usually wins it all. Like who's playing their best football down the stretch. That's got to
Mhm.
be us. We can't leave room for like, oh, we don't need this. Maybe we don't need the defense. Well, maybe we don't, but it would sure be nice to have it, right? Like
Yeah,
to have an
that's
elite
you're right.
defense. We need to win. I mean, we can't be playing around anymore. Like it's time to just win one of these things. I don't care if I don't care if we have everything up to perfection. There's no room for error. I don't care if whatever it takes. I don't care if we're beating teams by 40. We can't relax. Like we need to do this the right way for the first time since 2011, 2010 season. We need to do it everything the right way at our best in order to win the Super Bowl this year. So that way we have no margin for error, and we can just get the job done finally.
I posted yesterday a graphic that was like the NFC North winners since 2011. It's Green Bay Packers, Green Bay Packers, Green Bay Packers, then like 3 seasons of the Vikings or the Bears. And it's like, wow, we have dominated this division. And I got so many comments saying only one Super Bowl, which is funny because it's actually 0 Super Bowls in that span that I listed. But it's like, what do I even say to that? I can't even say anything to that. It's depressing that we haven't won a Super Bowl with all these elite seasons and all these Rodgers MVP seasons that we've had. And every year we're going to the playoffs saying we can be the hottest team going into January. We can get the home field advantage, and no one wants to come to Lambeau, and no one wants to play Rodgers right now. And it's like every year something happens that it just goes wrong, and it all means nothing. Like we cannot have that happen again. We need this defense to start playing better to prevent that from happening, because last year in the championship game, the offense, they had 3 possessions where the defense picked off Tom Brady and they couldn't do anything with it. But ultimately, the defense made a lot of bad plays in that game that contributed to the loss there. That if Kevin King is able to play the football, maybe we don't lose. If Chandon Sullivan isn't getting roasted, maybe we don't lose. If Darnell's able to make a play on the football, maybe we don't lose. We need like just a
The
few
Will
less
Redmond, you
Oh,
remember the Will Redmond?
The Will
And by the
Redmond,
way,
yes.
we never discussed this, and I'm not one to celebrate, but he has been
You
released. I think maybe 6 weeks ago. He was cut off IR.
I'm That's sad that you're bringing that up. You're talking about a man losing his job, Ron.
Well, he's richer than all of us, Griff.
That's true. He's got a
I
lot more
mean, he's
money than me.
gotten his money. He was
Yeah.
awful. I hate to say it. I mean, I'm done. Well, okay. I don't want to sound like a mean guy or whatever, but
Yeah. You sound
I
like a
mean,
mean
this
guy.
guy's. Well, whatever. He was bad. He cost us the
He was
NFC
bad,
Championship
yes.
game. He was
Okay.
bad. Okay, I don't.
Yeah,
All right.
well,
Everybody knows. Anybody who's listened to this show for a long time knows that this guy may be my least favorite player
of all time, seriously. Like he may be
in
your
any
least favorite player.
sport. Maybe my least favorite human.
Least favorite human. That's wow. Poor Will Redmond, man. He's not expecting to wind up on that list. Braun's least favorite humans. Will Redmond at the top. No,
Yeah.
but we can't afford to have defensive mistakes like that, and so that's why it's so exciting to think about Za'Darius coming back and he's able to contribute more than maybe a Jonathan Garvin has been able to, and Jair is going to come back, and we won't have to rely on rookie Eric Stokes as much as we do right now, and maybe that's gonna be what puts us over the hump. It's like in Mario Kart when you save your mushroom to the final lap and then you use it and it's just like, oh, now you were in second place and now you're in first place and there's no chance anyone's going to keep up with you. Like that's what we have right now on injured reserve with
What an
Z and
obscure reference.
hey man, that's what the people listen for. No, but
Yeah.
we got
Yeah, all our listeners are avid Mario Kart fans.
Mario Kart's a great game, one of the classics of my generation. But we got Z, we got Bakhtiari and Jair about to come back, three All Pros who can maybe prevent some of the mistakes that we've seen in Packers playoff history. Even last year in the NFC Championship game, the offensive line, that's a big reason we didn't win. That's a big reason we didn't win. Rodgers was under more pressure that game than he'd been almost all season. So it's like there's so many areas where we're struggling right now, but we've got guys on the way to shore that up.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's not many areas where we're struggling. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot.
Oh, well, kind of,
Where do you think we're struggling? Like, tell me where you think we're struggling,
I'm not
and
saying that
just
we're
give me
struggling.
and just put it in Mario Kart terms for the rest of us.
I'm not saying that we're struggling. I'm saying that these are areas that could maybe come back to bite us in the playoffs because they're not playing as well as we'd like them to right now. Like Eric Stokes, he's played very good for a rookie. I've been very impressed by him, but he's gotten beat a lot this season. And so maybe when we get Jair back, we won't have to rely on him to cover the DeAndre Hopkins of the league and whatnot. And we'll have Jair there, and Eric Stokes can be pushed further down the depth chart. And same with Jonathan Garvin and Tipa Nalia. I still don't know how to say that. Am I saying that right? Nalia? I think that's what Troy Aikman said.
Yep, that's
So
how you
it's
say
like
it.
they're playing well enough, but they're still not playing at a level that I'm confident can push us all the way to the Super Bowl. And it shores up a lot of areas that maybe if we played the playoffs tomorrow with the current roster, those guys would make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point for sure. I've made this
They are
point
the
100
mushrooms
times.
that are gonna push us through the final lap.
Yeah, sure, right? And I think
I mean,
this was an
hopefully
issue
no blue
last year.
shells.
Okay, that's enough. There's don't no banana peels on the way down.
Yeah, you played it
But,
before, huh?
yes, I've lived a life. Um, but no, I've made this point 100 times about what Tom Brady and the Bucks did to Chandon Sullivan and Kevin King last year. They just exploited both of those guys because nobody else in the league was able to do it because they just don't have the same personnel that the Bucks have. So when you have Chris Godwin against Shannon Sullivan and name the other Bucks receivers, right? Like Mike Evans, whoever it was, Scotty Miller, guys that are faster, stronger,
Don't say
bigger than
Scotty
Kevin
Miller on
King.
this podcast. Don't say Scotty Miller on
Sorry.
this
Bleep
podcast.
that out. Sorry, folks. Bleep that out. But uh, I mean, yeah. Name whoever whatever receiver that Kevin King got beat by on that fine evening. I mean, it was not good. So we have to once it's Jair and Rasul, who's a big time gamer, Super Bowl player. He's played in the Super Bowl, as has Devondre Campbell. A point I made in a post this week, and that is a
Big
big
time
part.
gamers.
Big
You're
time
gonna
gamer.
win
He's
the
a
big
he's a
time
big
gamer
gamer.
awards.
Yes, this guy is a baller. I mean, he's gonna be a big impact on this football team because of the Super Bowl experience that he has, as well as Campbell. That's an underrated part of bringing them in is guys that have played in the Super Bowl. Rasul Douglas being a winner of that Super Bowl against guess who? Thomas Edward Patrick Brady.
Is that his full name?
Yep.
Wow. How'd you know that?
I don't know. But I mean, Devondre Campbell played against Brady too in that Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's
How
experience
interesting.
that matters. It matters. It's important. And now those two guys were not on the field last year when we played them. And those two guys are at the heart and soul of our defense this year. As big a part of this thing as anybody. That's valuable to me, and I think that's underrated, not being talked about, and that is a point I did want to add on as well. So it's going to be a difference. It's not Kevin King and Shannon Sullivan. It's now Rasul Douglas and Devondre Campbell, and we'll see what else.
Kamal
But
Martin.
yeah, that too. Other guys that were playing that are not on the field this time. And we've got the additions of those two, plus the way that the offense is playing. Randall Cobb, hopefully we'll have back by then. Like, I'd like to see, if that's it, that's if we have to play them again. We're going to get into the playoff picture in a little bit, and we'll see who could be a possibility. But um, yeah, a lot of good things, I think, about the way that this defense and offense is shaping up. Despite, like what Griff said, we're going to be getting even better with the return of our favorites, Jair, Zedarius, and the big giraffe, David Bakhtiari.
The big giraffe. I heard that recently. Where did I hear that? Did I hear Aaron say that yesterday?
Yeah,
I
Aaron
think that's
says
where I
that.
heard it.
That's what
Yeah,
Aaron calls him, the big giraffe.
interesting. I want to talk a little bit about EPA. If you don't know what EPA is, it stands for expected points added. Just a general term for it's a general measure of offensive efficiency, and it's a lot more it's a lot more reliable than things like points per game and whatnot. It basically so if you don't know what EPA is, every down and distance, every situation on the field, depending on where you are on the field and the down and distance, it gives you an expected points in terms of what is the average points scored on that possession depending on where you are on the field and the down and distance. And every play adds points or subtracts points. So like a net -1 run play on 1st and 10, that's going to be negative EPA. You can read articles about it. I know I didn't explain it very well just then, but the Packers since week 2, this is seriously absurd. Since week 2, the Packers all season the Packers have had the most productive offense in the league, the most efficient offense in the league. But since week 2, it's absurd. Their dropback EPA, Aaron Rodgers EPA per play, is at 0.29. Second place is the Rams at 0.19. That is a whole tenth of a point per play better than anyone else in the league. And third place is the Bills at 0.188. So the difference between second place and third place is so small, but the difference between first place and second place is ginormous. And when you expand to including last year too, the Packers, their offense has been otherworldly ridiculous. And at times this season, we've been like, wow, it's really not as good as it was last year. But now that we've had a few good games and you go big picture, it's looking a lot like what we expected it to look like.
Yeah, Griff. That's a lot of numbers you just threw at us, and I don't really comprehend them at this moment. But uh, the point you made, I think, overall is it's really not about how you play for the entire season, but how you're playing. During this stretch, you talked about the offense was not as good at one point, and it hasn't been playing. Well, it has been playing much better than it was pretty much for that good first stretch, about 8 weeks of the year, and then we finally started turning it on more and more as we go. And now we're looking like that 2021 offense. We're looking like that team that we were last year. This team that we are now in 2021 is what we thought it would be on the offensive side of the ball for sure. And the defense is still playing good enough to where I think we're in a really good spot. And I think I'd like to see the defense get better. But the offense is it's at that point now where I feel comfortable about how we're playing and who we're playing with, and the success we're having against some good teams. Um, and week one has no bearing on what we're doing right now. Neither does week 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, these last several weeks definitely do. But those ones from weeks and weeks ago with guys that were hurt then and are back now, all of that doesn't even matter as much. It really is about how we're playing right now. And all these numbers take into account the full year, right? But what we're doing now is exceeding even all of our expectations. So I'm excited about that for sure.
I think it's more like if we get lost in the flow of the season a lot of the time. So early on in the season, we have these ugly games like the Seattle game and the Cardinals game on offense wasn't pretty, and the Bears game week 6 we only scored 24 points. But it's like, oh wow, this offense isn't really playing well. But you go back to 2020, we had our ugly games too. They were just more dispersed around the season. Like the Panthers game week 15, that was a really ugly game if you remember. The Jaguars game, they were winless, I believe, and we only beat them by like 3 points or something like that. The Colts game, we lost that game. We had a lot of games last year where the offense didn't look very good. The Bucks game, week 6, that was one of the worst games that we played all season. It's easy to think that the Packers, like their offense, isn't looking as good, but when you simulate the full season, again, this is what we expected the offense to look like, big picture. And last year, a lot of our games, we had ugly games that were randomized throughout the season, but a lot of them were clumped together this year, where it makes you think that the offense isn't doing what it's doing. But now that we're, week 15 going into week 16, this is right where we expected them to be. And once again, Rodgers is in the thick of it in the MVP race.
Before we get to fan questions, Griff, let's talk about our opponent on Christmas Day, the Cleveland Browns. A lot to
Yes,
talk about
Christmas
there.
Day game.
Big
When's the
game.
last Christmas Day game you can remember for the Packers? I not that I've been watching.
No, I have no idea, but,
Yeah, it's been a while.
uh, Santa Claus is coming to town.
Great Christmas song. No, but this is gonna be a fun game. The Browns are obviously pillaged with COVID right now and injuries, but we're expecting them to have their quarterback back. They just lost to the Raiders earlier tonight, but you know that's not really the Browns team that we're going to be going up against. So I don't know. What are you thinking about this game, Brown?
Yeah, Griff, I mean, this one is gonna be it's a big game for us, obviously. Um, well, it's an AFC matchup, just like AFC North, just like the Ravens were just a week ago, obviously, at this time. And will it be a white Christmas is the question. It's the most wonderful time of the year, obviously. And it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas as well
Uh,
when you talk about the
I
big picture. So,
I didn't know if you I didn't know if you were doing a thing there or not. Let's
well,
see.
I
Saturday is
hope
showing no snow, so
we better hope it's not a silent night because we need our fans to be rocking. So,
oh my god. Any more? Any more? Put you on the spot.
we'll see what happens over the course of the next few
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay. Well, the Browns are a team that, a lot like the Ravens, a lot like every single team in the AFC North. I don't know what to expect from them week in and week out. I don't think they're a very good team, but you never know. They could come out with a performance all of a sudden, like they did against the Bengals a few weeks ago, and absolutely blow them out of the doors. That could happen. I don't expect that to happen actually, but they're capable of having a performance like that where they just run the ball with Nick Chubb, and he's able to take over a game. And Baker Mayfield is a great system quarterback, similar to Kirk Cousins, who can, when things are going right, he can play well enough to lead his team to victory. But overall this season, they have not been a very good offense, and they haven't been a great defense given the amount of talent that they brought in. And they've kind of been a little bit worse. They've definitely underwhelmed a lot of people given the expectations that they had. And Jarvis Landry, he's their number one receiver right now, but there's a lot of talk that maybe they need someone else to bring in because. And also Baker. Baker is he's going to be a big story this offseason because what do the Browns do with Baker Mayfield? He's not looking like the number one overall pick that they drafted, but he's also hasn't looked terrible enough to just move on from him without any pushback from the fans. So that's a lot of stuff right there. But in terms of this game, I don't expect him to play very well because I don't think he's a very good quarterback, and I think the Packers should win this one pretty easily. I know I just gave you a lot there, Braun, but hey, man, what can I say? That's what I'm expecting.
Well, I'm just hoping little Saint Nick doesn't run all over us and rock around our Christmas tree.
There it
Um,
is.
that's
Who?
that's really all. I just when you talk about this group of guys that the Browns have, God rest ye merry gentlemen. Honestly, I mean in this one, it's just like you got to look at the sleigh ride we've got here. And it's going to be a tough ride. I mean, we've got it's a good football team. They're sitting at 7-7. They did lose to the Raiders. And hopefully it's not a blue Christmas for us because we've got a big one after that against the Vikings, who they're still competing. They're in the playoff picture. It's not like they're out of it. Do you hear what I hear, Griff, about the Vikings? That
What do you
this
mean?
game they're gonna go out and beat the. It looks like they're gonna beat the Bears here. It's 17-3. Um, that's what the score is right now with 1 second left in the fourth quarter. So barring some kind of 14-point play, that one's gonna be that one's over. But
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, you know, I and against the Vikings, in previous years with Kyle Rudolph there, we were always hoping that we wouldn't see Run Rudolph run, but he's not there anymore. That's one thing we won't have to worry about in that game.
Did you just
Um,
bring up the Vikings just so you could make that Kyle Rudolph joke? These
well, the
these are
thing
getting a
is,
lot worse as it goes on, by the way.
I'm just worried about the little drummer boy Baker Mayfield this week, and then I'm looking into next week as well. Um,
Why is he the little drummer boy? It doesn't make sense.
I'm running out of ideas,
A
Griff.
lot of these are bad. You're bringing up songs I've never heard of, and how Baker's the little drummer boy, and you're bringing up the Vikings
Well,
just
I just hope that
a
baby
joke
it's
about
cold
the tight
outside.
end that's not on their team anymore.
Well, I just hope that baby it's cold outside by the time we get to Christmas in our game against the Browns, because I'll be
Yeah.
home for Christmas. So
Mm. Oh my god. Do you have anything to say about the Browns?
all I want for Christmas is my 3 remaining wins that we need to secure this 1 seed. Um, but
This
in
is one
terms
of
of the
them.
Browns, what'd you say?
This is one of them. We need to win this one.
Yeah, this is one of those, and um, to me, I do like that we've got a matchup with this Browns team. It's kind of reeling now because they're losing games. They're in a fight for their division, though. I mean, they're not out of it yet, right? That division is totally up for grabs. So I definitely don't think it's out of reach for them. And this is going to be a game that both teams are going to want to win and have. There's a lot at stake for both teams because if we lose this game, we have to hope it's not out of the woods for us yet. Like we can still lose a game with in terms of the Tampa Bay tiebreaker and the Cardinals tiebreaker. We have those, but the Cowboys, if let's say they win their next two, now we're in a position where we have to win our next three. Otherwise, the Cowboys of all people would get the 1 seed. So that is something interesting as well. The Cowboys are pretty much in the second best position to get that 1 seed after this loss by the Bucks the other night.
Wow, so you've turned this Browns discussion from a Browns discussion to a how many Christmas song jokes can I make in the span of 5 minutes, and now you're talking about the playoff picture. I'm down for it. I don't like previewing games anyway. So the playoff picture, yeah, it is what it is. The Packers are in a great spot right now, but obviously they've still got to take care of business. Are we ready for fan questions here, Bron?
Wait, Griff, hold on 1 second. Hold on.
What?
I just saw mommy kissing Santa Claus.
Oh my. Oh, okay. Okay. Fan question time.
Fan
Fan
questions it
question
is. All
time.
right, that's it for me on the Christmas front.
Yeah.
Here's a good question I did get, Griff, from Nelson Oliveras. He asks, from the teams with winning records that are playoff bound, who do you think had the easiest schedule and the hardest schedule? I feel like that was an interesting topic. Who do you think has had a soft road that maybe is a little bit vulnerable against some good teams that they play, and then who has had a really tough schedule? I think we've had a tough schedule. We've played a lot of the playoff teams, a lot of really good football teams. Even some of the bad ones we've played have been, they have good rosters or good parts of their team that are challenging. I don't know about you, Griff. I do think we are in that harder section of the schedule, but I think the Bucks have had a really easy schedule. So tell me what you think about that question.
Well, I'm pulling up the PFF data right here. By the way, I got my premium stats back, so that's good. But it's to date the hardest schedule has been the Washington football team per PFF. PFF like weights it based on team grades and everything like that. And then the next playoff team up here happens to be in the NFC happens to be Dallas. They've had the 8th hardest schedule this season, which is the most among division leaders in the NFC right now. So I was gonna say Dallas. Obviously, I don't have the entire NFL season mapped out in my brain, but my hunch was Dallas because they just played the Giants. They played the football team 2 weeks ago, and they haven't looked good, but it hasn't resulted in losses, mainly because these last 2 weeks that the opposing offense is just not very good. But yeah, so it happens to be that the easiest schedule to date per PFF in the NFC playoff picture happens to be Minnesota. They're not in the picture right now, are they? I don't know. But then LA is 23rd hardest schedule, which would be the ninth easiest schedule. So tied for ninth easiest schedule. So I mean, I'm not going to give an answer here. I'm going to refer to PFF, the ultimate cop out. Here's a fun question from Brendan.Villa. What is your take on the relativity of quantum physics and astrology to the Packers? Um, this one from It's Jackie MOJR.
Not
Do you
even going to
think?
comment on that last one.
Yeah, no. Do you think we are not using Amari Rodgers as much as we should? He has been MIA on offense at least, but
Yeah.
I I don't know, man. It's tough
Well, I
because
mean,
I was
he's got to contribute. I mean, it's different. Like with Cobb, like I'm going to compare him to Randall Cobb. He showed so much on special teams to the point where we had to start playing him more on offense as a returner.
he was also
What
a
is what
first
he did.
rounder. No,
Yeah, that's
second rounder.
no,
He was a
okay,
second
second
rounder.
rounder. Not that much of a difference. Packers said they would have picked Amari in the second round if who would they pick? Oh, Josh Myers. If Myers wasn't there, they said he was going to be picked. They wanted to trade up for him, is what it was. They wanted to trade up for him in the second round, and they just didn't find it. And then he ended up being there in the third. I mean, like I'm just going to compare him to Randall Cobb because the relationship they have, they're similar in positions, like the slot receiver type, whatever. Amari just hasn't been consistent enough on special teams. I think he has a lot to offer on offense, but with the guys we've got out there, who are we playing him over? Like, I mean, it's not like there's like spots to fill. We've got guys that are playing well. I think EQ when he comes back has rights over him. I would say, um,
Yeah, and so does Cobb, obviously.
yeah. Whenever
The
Cobb comes back,
the one thing that disappoints you about Amari has to be, well, special teams. That is like God, man, we were hoping that like Tyler Irvin's gone. We don't have a punt returner, but it's Amari. He can definitely do it. He's a third round receiver. We can obviously plug him in at returner, and he's going to give us some value there. But not only can he not catch a lot of the time, but he's just not dynamic as a returner. He's not dynamic with the ball in his hands in the return game. So that's pretty upsetting. But it's also upsetting that I was hoping, especially early on in the season, I was hoping that LaFleur would have carved out a role for Amari, especially by now. Like he's just got nothing to do on offense, and he comes in for a jet motion every now and then, but that's about it. Like Tyler Irvin had a role in the offense in 2019 and 2020, and we picked him up off the street. And so I was hoping that maybe their third round receiver, they would have a game plan for him in his rookie season where you're not putting too much on his plate, but you're giving him a role and he can affect the defense in some sort of way. But that just hasn't happened so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is the reality of the situation. I mean, he's got time to develop. He wasn't relied on to be a contributor this year, and maybe he'll appear in the playoffs or down the stretch. But I think it's okay. He's had growing pains, but it's not unlike any other player that's been drafted over the years. Some guys come out and play really well right away. Others take some time. Uh, I mean, we're giving Jordan Love all this time to develop. I mean, we can give Amari Rodgers some as well.
Here's a question that we tend to touch on every couple weeks, but I feel like this is maybe a good time to touch on this. What does our future look like with Rodgers leaving soon, as well as the Tay rumors? And I only want to talk about this because
Oh, no, no,
no,
not
we've
doing
been
this.
no, this is optimism, dude. This is optimism hour. Did you see his post game press conference on Fox? That is the face and that is the voice of a man who plans on being here a few more years. Ben Fennell made a very good point on Twitter today. He said, if Jordan Love is okay with being a backup, maybe Jordan Love doesn't want to start right now. Maybe he's comfortable sitting behind Aaron and learning as much as he can and knowing that his time is going to come to be the starting quarterback of the Packers. Maybe not in these next couple seasons though. Maybe that's the case. And then Rodgers, he's happier than ever this season, man. What if he just wants to stay? And I think he does want to stay. And you've been saying this for a few weeks now, and so have I. But I think things are looking a lot better right now than they were at the beginning of the season for sure. And if Rodgers is able to stay, then I have to think that Devontae is able to sort out some kind of deal with the Packers, and he's going to stick around as well.
Okay, well, to me, first of all, Jordan Love wants to start. I mean, like, he wants to play. He's not comfortable. I'm sure there's worse positions to be in, and he knows that, but he wants to play. I mean, I know he does. He's been asked about it before, and he's like, well, yeah, of course I want to play. Like, and maybe the Packers trade him at some point. Like if Rodgers is willing to stay and winning MVPs every year, like maybe I don't know what's going to happen. What is something's got to give is what I always say about this situation. Something's got to give, and you know they offered Rodgers an extension this offseason before things went bad. Like, what is their plan? What is the plan? That's my question.
Well, I think
Nobody knows.
Goody and Rogers are in a much better place now than they were this spring. Was that the spring? I have no sense of time, but I think they were at such odds back then that there was really nothing that could have gotten done. But now Rogers has said their relationship is stronger. They're dapping each other up at practice. I think they're in a good spot now, and we know Rogers had such problems with the culture and how the Packers treat their players. But I think that a lot of that has been sorted out. So I don't think he has any real problems with the front office as of right now. And so it all comes down to his position as the long-term starter. And think of it like this, like Josh McDaniels has been told for how many seasons now that he, well, reportedly is going to be the successor to Bill Belichick when Belichick retires or dies. McDaniels has been willing to stick around and just be the offensive coordinator and know his role and just wait
He
for
would
that
have
time
taken
to come.
he would have taken the Green Bay job if it was offered to him. He would have taken it.
He took the Indy job and
He took the Indy job. This point
And
is
what?
invalid.
And no, he took the Indy job and backed out because he was promised to be the starter. I'm saying that there's a chance, or the starter, promised to be the head coach. I'm
Yeah.
saying that there's a chance that Jordan Love knows that his time is coming, and maybe he's willing to just be the quarterback or the backup quarterback and soak up as much knowledge and experience as he can while he's playing with free money right now. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Let's just agree to disagree. And you know what that means? This
That
conversation is
means
over.
that means we'll get back to that in February.
Well, I do have one point about Devontae. He said on the Rich Eisen show not long ago, maybe about a week ago, He said Aaron um, is in a position where he feels like Aaron is happier about his position with the team and feels better about the possibility of staying. Devontae said he sees that. He said those words. He said, it seems like Aaron is in a better spot with the team and is definitely more receptive to staying past this year. But Devontae did say that his future is probably potentially tied to Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to play into it too. Like, are the Packers really willing to lose both Devontae and Aaron, their whole franchise right there? That's a question. I mean, that would be catastrophic to the organization. But I'm done talking about the future because we have a Super Bowl to win. Tarak asks, what do you think the Packers can do to improve their special teams moving forward?
We're gonna get this one every week for the rest of the season. I don't know, man. I think it is what it is. LaFleur is still has his feet stuck in on Mo Drayton being the special teams coordinator. I don't see any coaching changes happening. Crosby he's making his kicks lately. Thank God. Bojo had another shank punt. I thought he was a given, but evidently that's maybe not the case. It was in the fourth quarter too. The worst possible opportunity to shank a punt. Bojo. It looked a little bit J.K. Scottish there. You know J.K. Scott, he was so unclutched, bro. He was the most unclutched punter that maybe I've ever seen because he would be really strong. He'd be booming them early on in the season. Then when it gets cold out, and especially late in games when we really need a great punt, he would had a tendency to really shank them. And Bojo, he's been better than Scott, but he shanked one late in the fourth quarter, which set up the Ravens' potential game tying drive there at the end. But we've got our kickers. They're the best part of the special teams operation. The coverage, the return game, all of it is hot garbage fire. I'm thinking that we're just gonna have to withstand it, and hopefully it doesn't bite us in the ass. Which for a long time I've been saying that special teams will end our season. Still a good chance of that happening, but hopefully not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned, but like it can't get worse, and we're still winning. So,
It
but
really
against a
can't get
great
worse.
team, it might be too much to overcome. So we'll see
Maybe.
what happens, but it can't get worse. So there's that.
Hey, they recovered an onside kick against the Ravens.
Somehow, AJ
Yeah,
Dillon did it. Of course, who
thank
else?
God, dude. Get him on the field more often, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Just for that, like, just start playing him on defense. Who cares?
Yeah.
Those quads. I mean, he could probably play any position he wanted. Linebacker, throw him
Safety.
out there. Nah, not safety. He's a little small.
Kicker.
I literally just said put him in any position, and then I was
I
like,
know you did.
nah,
Yeah.
not safety.
Actually, not
Kicker,
safety, not corner either.
kicker. No, yeah,
Kicker?
actually, just he could probably play running back. That's about it. No, but no kicker. He could kick that ball 100 yards probably with
I'd
those
like to
legs.
see AJ Dillon kick a ball just to see what would happen.
Well, we
We
should have asked him about this when we had him on our podcast.
we did have AJ Dillon on the podcast. I
Not the
mean, that's a
first, won't be the last, but that was a fun one.
yeah, that was a fun one. I wasn't there for that actually. Do you have another question?
Jacob M716 asks, "How should this team approach the championship game this year if we make it that far?" So, what's the approach? What's the game plan on offense, defense? What's the mentality, Griff?
I mean, it's got to be in the back of their minds at that point that they've lost a billion of these in the past decade. So, and like it's such a meme at this point that the Packers lose in the NFC Championship game. These guys go on the internet. They've had to have seen that. They've had to have heard that on TV. They know it's their reputation. So it's gonna be in the back of their minds that the NFC Championship game tends to be Green Bay's kryptonite. So I don't know how they get over that. Maybe it motivates them to play their best football and can get them over that hump. But I think that you just got to go 1-0 that Sunday, as Matt LaFleur loves to say. You got to go 1-0 in the NFC Championship game because they've gone 0-1 twice now under Matt LaFleur. So gotta change that. I don't know. What do you want me? You want me to break down the hypothetical opponent that we don't know yet? We don't even know if we're gonna
No,
make it to the championship game.
I think he's asking about like from a big picture standpoint, the mentality. I think, and we
It's
have to
scary.
look
It's
at
gonna
it
be
like,
scary for me.
yeah, it's gonna be scary. Well, yeah, good thing you're not playing quarterback because we've got a
Thank
guy that can do
God.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, that would be ugly.
Wait, actually, you've never seen me throw. I throw a pretty good ball.
You're the most unathletic looking human I've met. No, I'm kidding. But, no, I mean, like, just it's not about how we feel, it's about how they feel, and the question is, how should they feel? What should the thought process be from the players, the coaches? What should be instilled in the lessons of that week as they probably come off a win if they're going into the championship, definitely coming off a win. But to me, I
Oh,
think
are they?
about yeah, thanks, I know, yes, Captain Obvious, whatever. I think that they will be instilling the idea that there is adversity here, and that they're going to show up in every possible way. Like there's not going to be anybody sleeping. Like, Za'Darius after the game said that he didn't like, the practice that week and felt like everybody wasn't ready. It was like that can't happen. Like I don't know how much of the truth there is to that, but it definitely won't happen this time after they've lost twice now. Under Matt LaFleur. So I definitely don't think it will happen this time. This is from C the Lander 3. He says, "Does Green Bay have to lose 2 of the last 3 games now to lose the 1 seed?" Um, well, yes and no. That's if so the Cowboys, that's the determining factor is Dallas, because they play the Washington football team in week 16, and in week 17 they play the Cardinals, and week 18 they play the Eagles. So theoretically, they have to lose one of those 3 games in order for us to comfortably lose one and still be the 1 seed. But it would probably have to be one of those first 2. The Cardinals is definitely a game that is a toss-up, I'd say. Those are 2 good teams. So that game could be, if so let's say the Cowboys theoretically lose that game, we could rest our starters for the Lions game, and then basically have 2 potential bye weeks in a row before a divisional round matchup with the winner of a wild card game. That would be, whether you would do that or not is a
Dangerous,
debate.
pretty dangerous. 2011.
Well, like, I don't know. Who knows? That's not our decision to make. It's a possibility that they would maybe sit Rodgers, let him heal for 2 weeks, his toe.
Oh yeah, yeah, that might be a big factor there.
They might want to see Jordan Love play
Oh yeah.
that's and plus Devon. Everybody could use more rest. But then the question is, can they just show up and play? That's not a debate for us at this point. Although we could sit here and talk about it, but uh, a lot will go into that decision about who plays and who doesn't. I think that's a game. Maybe you bring back Zadarius. Maybe you bring back Jair and David all in that game. Maybe have like Aaron maybe sits, and whoever else, if you want to have Devondre Campbell, whoever else. Maybe you get those guys ingrained a little bit by giving them some live action, but not hurting our team by having guys who have been playing consistently for us go out there, potentially get hurt. Maybe they play half the game, whatever. But that is certainly a debate. But if, let's say, the Cowboys lose, um, I think our game is before the Cowboys on week 18. So because I think we play the Lions at 1. Their game, I believe, is at 4 something, 4:25 Eastern time. Um, we've got the 12 o'clock Central. They've got the 3:25 Central. So that would put us in a position where we wouldn't know. We couldn't know in time if that, you know what I mean? So we would have to put our guys
Yeah.
in to win that game. That's really the total story there. If you want to look at the playoff picture, Griff, as of now, we are sitting at the 1 seed. Of course, that won't change unless we lose a football game. But the picture has Minnesota now locked into the 7th seed at this moment at 7-7 after their win. The Saints are in the 8th spot now, but so it's Minnesota. These are the playoff matchups today. So Minnesota versus at going to Dallas as the 2nd seed. So Dallas now creeps up to the number 2 seed. It would be San Francisco as the 6th seed going against Tampa Bay, in Tampa Bay, that's a very, very good matchup with how hot how hot San Francisco's been. And then the Rams now as the 5th seed would be going to Arizona in a game that the Rams just won not long ago. So that's a lot of good football right there in those matchups, Griff. Um, we could see a scenario where Tampa gets upset by San Francisco if they come out and perform like they did against New Orleans in a playoff game, right? That would put us in a great spot to face a team we beat already um, in the wild card round. Potentially play a team like Dallas, where we've had a lot of success against them, or a team like Arizona or the Rams, 2 teams we already beat, right? I think that puts us in a good spot, but we'd like to see Tampa Bay lose, of course.
Yeah, that would be very nice. That would be very nice. But I think that does it for today's podcast. Does it, Bron? Do you have anything else to add to this conversation?
No, I've added a lot.
Yeah, you have. But the
And
playoffs
you
are going to
have
be fun.
too. Griff, you've added a lot too.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Bron. These playoffs are going to be fun. These last 3 weeks are going to be a lot of fun for us Packer fans, knowing that we're in the driver's seat and we have a lot more margin, a lot bigger margin for error now than we did coming into Sunday. So it's going to be nice. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoy this Christmas Day matchup between the Browns and Packers. Hopefully, it's all the Christmas song stuff that Bron said earlier. Hopefully, it's all that, and hopefully, it's a lot of fun, and we can just have a happy, nice, non-stressful Christmas and victory to go along with it. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to come back next week, and we'll be back to talk about the Browns game and preview the Minnesota Vikings. And you can find this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube and Google Podcasts. You can follow me, Griffin, on Instagram and Twitter at All Day Packers. You can follow Bron on Instagram at Lambo.Leapers. Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Today in Titletown, at Today Titletown on Twitter. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much. Go Pack Go. Merry Christmas, folks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Merry Christmas and go Pack Go.